Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the back office just when you thought it was safe and all of the radio hackery was done with. Nope, I'm afraid not. I still want to finish this BMW radio and I hope you will want to watch me do it too. In the previous installments I had removed, if you recall, the hard fixed. These are two amplifier chips. I'd removed one of them. These are the TDA style amplifier chips. However, in the board mounted configuration that's designed to heatsink to the case, it's a little bit of a variant on the standard black blob of resin packaging with the little gold wires underneath inside that resin cap, and they're very irritating. So what I'm going to do is remove this other one and remove my little mod that sort of tested how it worked, and I've got all these nice kynars, but I might have to cut them and re-prepare new kynars because I have the actual chip. That is what the all three of them came out. Got my extra staticky jumper on just to make sure that they're all fried. Let me just, oh bugger, look, I've bent up the pins. Just harumph, harumph. Right, these are the chips. Stop harumphing and start harumphing. And this is the data sheet for said chips. So I had a look at them. In ground, V out 1A, ground 1, blah 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 blah. Let's go through the simple version of it as I've worked it out. This is the chip. You have pins 1 to 13. Ignore the fact that they're stepped, just count them as if they're not stepped. You've got basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, that's fine. And then you've got this little picture here I've done with a square with a 1 to 13 going round. But what that basically is saying, if you've got the pads in your amplifier, and they'll be a lot clearer when I remove all these kynars, you've got 13 pads in anti-clockwise order. They're the 13 pads that you've got to connect to the 13 pins. Backwards ways, like. Something like that, like. But we're probably still just going to use kynar because there's no real mechanical way of fitting them in. So what I'm going to do is basically desolder this mod and scratch my head a bit while I'm doing that to figure out how to get these back in. And then, of course, I should probably just unbend that. Amazingly fragile, to be honest with you, amazingly fragile. And this isn't the most convenient package for heat sinking, so if your design requires that they be heat sunken better, then be careful of that. Not sure how much heat sinking I'm going to use on that because I'm using an amplifier, so I'm not sure if they're going to be pumping out that much power. First things first though, let's zoom in a teeny bit. I'm going to have to remove some stuff, so I'm going to just lever off this little amplifier that was kind of stuck here. Yeah, there we go, the little baby boomer one. And I'm going to proceed to remove all these kynars. And I know it's a little bit irritating in this video because you've got this vertical board here, so when you do that you're sort of casting a shadow over the area, but I assure you I'm going to clean this up and I'll show you what I'm doing. The most tricky part of all of this is to get this component off without damaging anything else. So that's the bit I'm going to focus on probably a lot in this video, and that's the bit that you've got to pay some attention to. The rest is pretty much procedural, you know, cutting kynar, soldering kynar on the right pins. I mean, that's something you can all do. We can all do that, boys and girls. So there's the old, that came off quick, didn't it? Much quicker than bloody putting on, I can tell you. Right, just show you these pads I was talking about while I'm there. Yeah, I'm going to go and clean all of these up, by the way, because you can see I've bridged them all in solder, but I'm actually doing this on purpose because I just want to tin them. While I'm here, I'm tinning them, so they'll be easier to solder to, but we've got a bit too much solder now. And if you want to know how to clean up stuff which have got too much solder on it, you need some solder braid. And for that, I suggest you search around your work area underneath all the piles of detritus and find you a bloody roll of it. I can't find a roll right now, but I've demonstrated that in the past. It's not too tricky for you. I'm just trying without. Yeah. Sometimes you can get away with it, by the way, by just, if you've got clean soldering iron, which I don't, I'm going to clean it up big time. Rubbing it against my bit of steel wool. Sometimes the solder will actually just stick to the iron more than the pad, and you can just sort of clean it and then go around again and clean it. It's kind of not great technique, but actually it's worked in this case too, and you can see now all of those pads I can't zoom in anymore, you'll have to bear with me. I'll just tilt it slightly, get a good look. Are nice and tinned, and if we count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So there's all of our pins there. And if we really screw up the pins, we can always trace them back to some vias. So you see, if you screw up this pad, you can always go back and solder to there, and solder to there, and solder to somewhere else, hither and thither. We'll work that out. Now, this one is a bit more of a challenge, because you've got this huge heatsink. You can see there, it's a big heatsink that's on there. The chip sits in between there, so it's sinking directly to this heatsink. It's sort of like a heat spreader almost, and then you've got this bracket that clips on from externally. Now, one benefit we have here is that we don't really care, because we're not trying to save that, we're not reflowing it or anything. So we're going to try to get rid of this, and for this I'm going to use some hot air. So cover your ears, the old air blower's going on. And it needs a lot, by the way, we're going to be here a while. When you're doing this, please be aware you've got some components underneath. You don't want to lose them. So I'm going to blow it away from those components. Right, let's do this. It's taking solder now, means it's hot. Got these pins, so you actually do have to lift it mechanically. I would suggest, if you've got one, a scalpel or something you can use to get under the edge. And there we go. Get rid of it. And that's that. So you can see there, that's actually, right there, that's the bottom of the chip itself, and that's the potting around it. You can see how tricky it is to work on that and have it survive. And you can see next to it there's the hole at the old one. It's a kind of odd little hole, but it does work. Holds the chip in clearly. But that's an actual chip right there, the actual substrate. So now the bit where you can't really follow me so easily, because we're going to get a bit of a shadow. We want to remove this part, and this is actually where the chip is kind of bonded to it with its golden wires. And I'm just testing this because last time I heated this up, you can see I heated it up there, but the heat is really more to destroy the resin in this package because it's got these tiny little gold wires that hook it all on there. Let's do some resin destruction. I'll try to just lift this up a bit so you get a better view while I'm at it, and I'm going to use this tool. There we go. Not great, but better than nothing. Better than nothing. Heat time. Now I'm prepared to totally sacrifice this package. Remember, I'm not. You want to protect the surface mount stuff. You don't care about this. This is dead. That's it. This one didn't come off in the way that I've accustomed to, so I'm just going to work it a bit. So, so that's the packet, the actual plastic packaging there, and you can see that's just the blob of resin basically. I'm going to see if I can. Oh, it's soft. Nice. Soft, but not soft enough right now. Sometimes these just are like putty, and it just sort of. It's like a nothing, but this one is being a bit more tenacious. So our aim here though is to clean this off without damaging any of the signal tracks. Like here, you want this nice and clean. So I'm probably, my technique, if I just brush that off, it's probably going to just be again to apply more heat just directly to that package, because that'll soften it up and or crack it or cause it to mechanically fail. Oh, it stinks, but it is, you can see, it is soft now. I'll just going to poke it through. Look at that. Poked it right through. There's the chip. We might save that. Let's look at that under the microscope later. Ah! Or not, because it's disappeared. Darn, I really wanted to look at that thing, but it's just it flicked off the bench. Not sure we'll find that, but that would be cool. We could actually see the die there properly and have a look at how it's constructed. But come on, before it gets hard again, let's get this guy off. Watch yourself now, your knife. Oh, it's gone hard. I'll have to apply a little bit more heat, but I can see it there. And you can see the little golden wires, of goodness. I'm going to have one tiny last search for that little die, because that would have been cool. Yes, I found it. I found it. See it right there? That is awesome. You can see all those colours in it. That's all the circuits. I'm going to put it on my shelf, and if I remember not to lose it up there, we'll have a look at that with the microscope. Just going to hold this in here now, one more time. Ah! That's working well. I think actually we're there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There we go, I counted it all up, the 13 pins. Let me hold that there for you so you can have a good look if the old camera will oblige us by focusing. So on the right you can see how it looks before tinning. On the left you can see how it looks if it's had a bit too much tinning. So just to reiterate, you've got pin 1 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1 to 13. And then when you look at your chip, which we will plop down there with you in the same sort of scene, you've got here pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we're going to let this cool down. I'm just going to clean this area, and we're going to set about getting this all hooked up. Okay, let us begin. So first we have our board here, and then to the side we got ourselves our kynar cutters and our little roll of kynar wire. And actually I do have quite a lot of pre-prepared kynar on this. I'm going to salvage because that saves me time. Despite lengths not being well, you know, take any shortcut you can with kynar, because it can be a little bit tedious. But actually, before I even bother taking this off, let's see where we can probably fit these. We may or may not need them to be heat sunk. I suspect a little bit will go a long way with them though. So if we were going to put them here, for example, think how many wires we're going to need each one is 13, that's 26 wires, so you don't want it too far unless you want to be using up an awful lot of wire. However, on the same time, I do think this can is quite nice for heat sinking against. I've been looking around where to sort of put these. I've decided I'm just going to stick them like here and here, somewhere there and there. So I'm going to cut some of this 3M clone tape. This is the same tape that you use for sticking your cameras up in your car. Now, I'm not sure it's particularly conductive or thermally conductive for heat. It probably is more of an insulator than anything else, so just be aware of that. If you're mounting these up, you really ought to be heat sinking these, because they always tend to have a huge heat sink. So, and they've got that big area of metal on the back, so one would assume it's necessary. Again, I'm not using it in quite the configuration you might be. So maybe just bolt it to a bit of tin or metal or something and make something heat sinky. I'm happy to just put these in like that, because I know I'm not really going to be driving much with them. I don't need them for their power, I just need them for their output, so I'm almost using them as preamps in this design. Come on! Bloody stuff. This tape's kind of weird in that it does take a long time for it to sort of adhere properly to the thing you're sticking it on, so it's trying to lift the tape off. I don't know if the real 3M tape suffers from that, so you have to kind of hold down the bit that you're doing, and then once you get it off it's okay. But really, once you stick that though, they do tend to stick. They stick like, I don't know, a sticky thing like that. Let's do the next one. And if you're using a sharp knife, now you'll notice I've got a new blade in my scalpel, and this isn't the good blades. Remember I said there's those good blades I bought, I reviewed them a while back, that are really good for surface mount electronics. It's one of the okay blades, but not quite as good as the last lot, because I still haven't located the last lot. I got really excited because I thought, oh yeah, I found me some blades, the blades I lost. But it was not. It was just some older blades that I'd lost, clearly. Misplaced. Fumbling. Get off. Right. Now that unpleasantness is behind us, I'm going to go through my approach here. So I'm just going to blob those down there like that. So remember, we've got to go from pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to pin 2, pin 3 to pin 3, pin 4 to pin 4, and they're going to do a little twisty thing as they're flying through that. Let's look at this thing I've sort of previously done and see if there's loads of wire on that. Yeah, okay, I'm going to desolder this Kynar, and but don't worry, we'll be needing loads more Kynar. So if you don't know how to use Kynar, by the end of this you will be at least theoretically aware of how to use it, because you'll be watching me do it and you wouldn't have done it yourself necessarily, but it doesn't matter, it's not hard, trust me, I am a doctor. Get off. Right, let's put that little amplifiery thing away. Bonobos. Isn't a bonobo a monkey? What I'll advise you to do then, and I'm going to start zooming in a wee bit, you'll have to bear with me, I'm going to tin these because it's going to make life easier for us. Oh, they're so springy. They're dead springy. And I like how I've stuck that one behind in an area that's incredibly hard for me to get to the solderer. Now we've got to do the bottom ones, which are going to be a real challenge, I think. Dirty iron there. Let's see if we can... If you've got a thin iron, you might be benefiting now of that purchase, because for me it's getting awfully tricky. He almost wishes he hadn't stuck it down yet. Ooh, blob of solder fell off there, almost into the tuning capacitor of the radio. That would have been super interesting if it fell in there. Good, I got in there all the same though. I'm just going to use my little tweezers to extract that. You probably can't even see it, but there it is, look. Ooh, that would have been a nasty one. Right, got me kynar here, and it's of a suitable-ish looking length. Now we've got all sorts of lengths here, so it could look a bit messy. Let's go with the longer length. Now the beauty of kynar when you're doing it properly is that you can make it look very neat. Now I'm reusing kynar, so I'm going to not be using it properly, and hence it won't be looking particularly neat, at least not on this first lot. So I'm going to touch that there in the PCB. Very fine. If you've got a fine tip soldering iron, you'll benefit from that. The beeps of death warning me. Now I actually am going to cut this kynar because I do think it is a bit rather too long for my application here, and I'm just going to route it appropriately around that way, and then we're just going to hook it up over to there. That beep, can you hear it at home, or is it in my head? I'm just going to cut that bit of kynar there. I think we could do a bit shorter, and then I'm going to use this. So yeah, I'm just demonstrating to you. Get some of these wire strippers and you can tune them to sort of be kynar optimized. Again, I really am sorry for that beeping. It's very unprofessional of me, but it's, get that in there. Hold that a bit longer though. I'm going to learn where that beeping is coming from one day, and I'm going to silence that device permanently. But until that day comes, we'll pretend it's not doing it. So that's one wire there. That's pin 1. I'm just going to hit the pin 2 there. But don't worry, you're not going to have to watch me do all the pins. I think my approach is going to be this. Let's do the first couple like now, and then I'm going to wang them on. And then as soon as if there's an interesting pin, like it's a bit weird, or oh look how short that wire is. That's not bloody good though, is it? An interesting one. Then what I'll do is I will obviously pause my not recording and start recording and show you what the interesting one's doing. Now that's pants. You see I've got that diagonally cut one. It's just do it better than me. But yeah, I'm going to check back now. I'm going to wang through these and we'll check back in a minute. There we go! Look at that. That's pretty low quality effort on my part. However, it is all there. Just going to try to show you. The only tricky ones are these last 3. You can see on the right, you see it's 3 very small pads close together. No bigger than a human fingernail. No, you can see that they're about the width of a knife blade. So yeah, they're a bit tricky getting those 3, but it wasn't that tricky. If you've got some tweezers, just make sure you get some good tweezers when you're doing your kynaring. You shouldn't have any trouble. So I'm going to try to do the same, but before I just run away with that, I'll just show you the tinning process because you haven't seen that yet. And again, I shall try to tilt the board a bit so you get a bit of a better view. There we go. You can see right in there. It's nothing too amazing. I'm just using my solder wire, which you can see actually is quite thick for this PCB. But all I'm doing, I'm working with the ones furthest away that are in the kind of shade. You can see I'm just holding the tip of the soldering iron on there. And if it doesn't stick right away, if you don't get a decent adhesion, just hold the iron there just a little bit longer because it could have a bit of that resin on there. And if you just hold the iron on there just that little bit longer, it'll kind of melt the resin off and hopefully you'll get to the tinny stuff below. And these are those 3 tricky ones. And I'm going to give a bit of extra on there because you're going to rely on that tinning on those 3 to be enough to sort of hold everything. And that's pretty much it tinned. Just tilt it slightly because I know under different light conditions it looks slightly different, but that's it. So kind of I'm just going to do a rinse and repeat really, and maybe then I'll go and test it in a bit. But yes, jump cut for the rinse and repeat. Nothing like 20 minutes of soldering kynar wire, but there you go. That side actually started to look a little bit neater than that side. but then it's a little bit messy here because it's a bit fiddly, but that is effectively the solution. So I think what I'm going to do though, I'm going to go run to the vehicle and see if it does anything, or if it just doesn't bloody work at all. Problem might lie elsewhere. It works! All I can say is now I just need to shove it back in its tin and it's done. Marvellous. Restored to perfection using my amazing solderard skills. No, they're not amazing. They're not particularly great, but they work. So if I can do it in this haphazard way, then you'll definitely be able to do it and get it all working. But gorgeous. Gorgeous, it's working. Then it lives to fight another day. So well done, Harman Becker Automotive Systems. I have cured you. As ever, thanks for watching. So I'd like to take this opportunity while I'm putting this together though. This is sort of, I know this is a end credit type thing. Just to thank my patrons. I know that there's been some upheaval over on Patreon recently, and it's been really amazing, some of the response, and I thank you so much for kind of hanging with me on that one. I really appreciate it, and I really need to do a more specific thing, just because I've got to collect those patron bucks somehow, and I haven't really been doing that. I've actually kind of letting them accrue. And I know I said I'll spend them on coffee, and I guess one way or another I am spending it on coffee, but what would be good is if there's enough accrued, maybe I could buy something interesting to do a teardown or a new tool or something like that. You know, earmark it in the budget for something more specific. Oh, something fell out when I did that. Sort of found myself with a few more screws here. I've got 3 more screws, and yeah, where would they go? Looks like one would go here. Let's try that. One goes in there, yes, and one will go in here. I've got so many other projects that I've started that I've got to bloody finish too. It's killing me, it really is. I've got pretty big bloody projects too. I just need to work out what is an appropriate way of getting them done. That's probably my biggest issue right now. So we don't need this bit anymore. That's the old heatsink clip that would clip those amplifiers to the shell. At the moment, in my case, they're just sort of floating here. Might just mix a little bit of resin or something just to keep them down, but in the meantime, let's see what I've got. I was looking for some duct tape, but I can't find any, so that's it. We'll just pop the lid on. So yeah, that's the end of that project. Thank you so much again for watching, guys, and hanging in there. If you've got one of these amps, get it working. You can do it. You can do it. I have faith in you. Oh, bloody thing. Oh, there we go. That's it. Ready to go again.